Hey everybody. Sequencer MegaBaby is into Reaper. I don't think it always came with Reaper. I think it was probably around 4.6 or so that it was bundled in, or at least MegaBaby version. There was a Sequencer Baby version before, um, and it's also available in the JSFX VST pack, which so you could use it in other DAWs. Um, but it's a really nice free tool that is a very easy to use sequencer that has a lot of power. No sequencer is perfect. I mean, I haven't found it. But MegaBaby has its place, and I think it's really good for um, for drums in particular, and it's good for glitchy stuff because it can subdivide the beats really easily. I like that about it. It's good for creating like quick variations on the sound if you want to play different parts of the kit and then jump back to the original part of the kit. Just creating variations in the sound, and I'll show you what I mean. So first off, we'll add MegaBaby. So MegaBaby needs to be added into as an effect in the chain before your instrument. You can use MegaBaby with drums, or you can use it with a melodic instrument. I don't use it with melodic instruments. There are other sequencers I'd prefer for that, but you can use it for that. So first off, you'd go to your effects and you would search for MegaBaby, or if you have it in a folder. So I'm using version NM, which is, if you go to the main thread for Sequencer MegaBaby, on the very last page, at least at this point in time, there is a user, and I'm forgetting his or her name right now, sorry. But they released an updated version that it has a simpler GUI to it. The GUI the menu isn't as large, and so it doesn't take up as much space. I just find it a little bit better to work with. So that's the NM version. But you can use the regular version. It just has a larger menu area, so the area for the notes is a little bit smaller. I like to drag my MegaBaby a little larger. First off, about MegaBaby, before I add an instrument after it in the effects chain, a couple things about just the GUI. The green bar indicates what area of notes are showing in the piano roll here. So if I drag this up or down, you'll see notes C1 through C3, or it will change depending on where I drag it. You can also right-click drag on it to decrease the number of notes or increase the number of notes. So you can have an immense amount of notes in one piano roll here. That's really handy if you have a large kit, or if you, here in a little bit when we start moving around different parts of the kit, moving the notes around, you'll see where it's nice to visualize everything at once and how it's moving around. On the right side, we have the red bar. Red bar is where in your which MIDI notes are triggering the different patterns. So we have 48 patterns showing here, and then if I hit the plus button, you have the additional up to 96. I don't remember, some of these features that I'm talking about are only in the NM version, and they're not in regular MegaBaby, so sorry if it's not in the regular. You can grab the NM version. If you have this setup where it has up to 96 patterns, then your sequence length maxes out at 64. But if you go to settings and you click on this, you can have only 48 patterns, so half the number of patterns, but you can have up to 128 steps. I would never have this many steps. I mean, typically I probably have 16 steps, or I don't know, 64. I don't usually have that large number, and I definitely never have 48 patterns, so I wouldn't need 96. But if you're a live performer and you really need a lot of different patterns, then they're there. So I'll go ahead and add a kit. We'll add battery. Battery is really cool in that it can have basically multiple kits open at the same time. Let me just find one. Okay, click dub kit. You can see that on every octave, it's got a different kick, and then on the C sharp note, another kick, and it has a snare on the D, and on up. It's kind of identical across, and that way, if you choose different octaves within Sequencer MegaBaby, it will play basically a different kit, and we'll look at that here in a minute. But it doesn't really matter what kit we choose here, so I'll just stick with this one. What we'll do is we'll go in and and I'll add some notes in. We can add notes in either, let me just make this a little smaller. We can add them manually. So if I just hit the play button, you can drag across to add an entire row at one time, or we can perform these in. So let me, by the way, I'm putting in notes by left clicking, and then you just left click on it to erase it. We can also just record it in, but before I record it in, right click the record button and say record disable. That way it's not recording a MIDI item at the same time, it's just putting the MIDI into MegaBaby only. I'll start recording, and I'll just add in kick, and then let me find out what else I want to add. All right, we'll just add a couple things. So if I wanted to find out where some other notes are on my push here, I would just hit the record button to disable it and go around. So this is kind of a weird kit, anyway. All right, so let's just say that that's our pattern. A couple different things. First off, you see the piano roll. I think this was click dub kit. So I have my drum mat note names added in. So for battery, so where is it? Click dub kit. Now up here, instead of piano roll, I can choose the drum map, and now I can see the name of everything that I have. So that's really handy especially if you're manually putting the notes in to have all of that. So now let's say I want to copy all of this to pattern number 2. So I select pattern 1, whatever notes I want to have copied, and then I hold down Control and I left click on the pattern where I want everything to be copied to. So I'll left click on 2. Now everything's in 2. One thing also in MegaBaby is you can left click drag on an actual name of a kit piece, and you can change it. So if I wanted this to be percussion or snare or close hi-hat, I can drag it around. But one thing about that is when you do that, then if I go back to pattern 1, it's changed there too. So if you drag it around and you change the kit up, it changes it for all of the patterns. If I wanted to have, like this exact same pattern playing over in pattern 2, but I didn't want it to be on this specific kit piece, but I instead wanted it to be on open hi-hat or something, I would have to draw it in again. I'm not aware of a way to just copy and paste that up, but so if I did this and just deleted this row, then it would be in here. But so this is pattern 2, pattern 1. So simple enough for now. One thing is there is a like I was talking about the glitchy effects you can do. So let's find something that will work for glitchiness. So like let's say right here, I put this in. You can hold on Shift and right click drag to subdivide these notes. So and just keep dragging up higher to subdivide them further, and it creates these gray spaces where you can then just draw in the notes. That's a really easy tool for creating those kind of subdivisions. I like it. And I think it's Control left click drag, which lets you drag across and change the velocities, so a velocity scale like that. And then I think it's like Control Alt left click drag to change all velocities for a row at the same time. So all right, so let's talk a little bit about messing around with the kit, changing what part of the kit is being played. So this green bar, if I drag it up one note to C sharp as in the bass, now you see kick, club, click dub 2 in the bass, and so I'll drag it back down. You see click dub 1 there. So if I move this around, and so that's indicating which MIDI notes will allow you to change that. So over here on the piano, it's not working because here it says MIDI off. You have to choose transpose here. You can left and right click through this to move through the different options. Pattern change is for the red bar, and basically I couldn't change the pattern if I didn't have that enabled. But once I have it enabled, then you can see I can choose C6 and C#6 to choose the pattern 1 or 2. Then the same goes for if I want to be able to transpose these around, then I'd choose different notes to move this. So if that's playing. And so, like I was talking earlier, if I wanted to do this and I wanted to move between like basically different kits, different octaves within battery, here's an octave up. Now it's playing off of the B row in battery, and here's C3 is going to play off of the C row in battery. And you can do a lot of things where at the fill you just change to almost a random note to play different parts of the kit. Clipping. And what's really cool about that is whenever you bounce this to MIDI, to a MIDI file, because you can leave this in Sequencer MegaBaby, but I would typically create what I wanted in MegaBaby, and then I would move it to a MIDI file, and then I'd just disable MegaBaby. So, create your performance and your beats in there, and then move it to a MIDI file. I guess you might work differently, but that's what I would do. And when you move it to that MIDI file, you can perform this in so that it plays different parts of the kit, and it will have that in the MIDI file. And I'll show you how that's done here in a minute. A few things also within MegaBaby. So this first row for MIDI CC data, so you can draw in mod and different volume. It has the defaults, but if you left click drag to CC 127, which it's named PRB for probability, it's only on the very first row here. Then you can change the probability for whatever notes are on that MIDI channel. So right now you can see on the left side we're on MIDI channel 1, and all of these notes are on MIDI channel 1. And so all of them have 100% probability. So if I move this around, now there's a very low probability of the middle notes to play. And so if I didn't want it to affect everything and I just wanted to be, let's say, on these glitchy notes, so it really kind of changes the glitch around a little bit. Let's put this onto channel 2, and then probability also on channel 2. And then here at the end, I will just change the probability down some. So now we'll see. So that's pretty handy. And if you had, this only works for one channel. You can't have like channel 3 have different probability values, but you could have different MegaBabies for different parts of percussion, I guess. But if you had, you probably, I don't know if you put probability for your kick and your snare, but for any of the sort of, the hats and the, the cymbals, you might put it there, or the glitchy stuff, you might put, lower probability, so it mixes it up a little bit automatically. And then, obviously you can draw in values for velocity and panning and all of that, and you can change the channel that it affects. So a few things also at the top, just talk a little bit more about the menu options. First of all, if you want to see all of the shortcuts, I don't use all of these shortcuts. If you were performing this live and you were using it up on a stage, then yeah, I mean, I could see use for all of that, but I use a lot of different sequencers, so I don't really have the brain power to remember shortcuts for everything. So I don't, you kind of pick and choose what parts are important, what kind of shortcuts matter, like that glitch shortcut where you shift, right click, drag to create glitches. That's one I use a little more often, and so I remember that. But I don't usually bother with memorizing a ton of different shortcuts, but they're there if you need them. But those shortcuts, a lot of them, for example, in the piano roll or the drum map area, there are some shortcuts like control left click or shift left click and stuff like that that changes some of the values of these options up above. So if you really wanted to change those on the fly down there, you could do that, or you could just come up and change them up here. So a few things about these menu options. First item is something I don't use, but you could use, and it relates to when MegaBaby is supposed to begin playing. For example, it's set to 0 right now, like the 0 beat, so it will play immediately. But if I, for instance, select measure 2, which would be the 4th beat, and I left click right here, it will start playing on the 4th beat. You have to change this too, I think, if I remember right. So see how it starts playing right there at 2. It knows to start playing, and you have to have this selected like this. Otherwise, I think it correlates to, if it's set like this, it correlates something to where in MegaBaby it starts playing. I don't know. I don't use it, so I don't really know. And then the second value is for where MegaBaby stops playing. So next is swing, self-explanatory. One thing about that, I probably wouldn't use swing in MegaBaby. You could use it if you're using it to perform it in. You kind of know, what swing value you'd probably play at, and so you can kind of, get the right feel for whenever you're performing it in. But one thing about MegaBaby also is that, at least to my knowledge, MegaBaby quantizes everything you put in. I don't think there's a way to disable that, and if there is, let me know. So I don't really, if I'm going to mess with humanization or putting swing on something, I'm going to do it off of a MIDI item in Reaper. So I will bounce this over to a MIDI item in Reaper, and then I will humanize it, hit the H key within the MIDI editor, and then humanize the velocities and the timing. Or I would go to the groove tool, the SWS extensions groove tool, and apply a groove to it. And I'll show that in this video at the end. So anyway, I probably wouldn't use swing, but feel free. The rate, a lot of the stuff's self-explanatory, but anyway, you can change the rate. Note length, I'm pretty sure that only applies to melodic material, and like I said, I don't use this for that. And by the way, if you are in here for melodic material, if you've drawn across notes like this, if you hit Alt, it will draw out a single note. So you can have sustained notes for melodic instruments. For drums, it's not relevant. And then steps per beat, sequencer length, and all of that. I think that pretty much covers the basics in here. By the way, this NM version of MegaBaby has these different skins, and I like it. It's pretty cool. I think that covers it. So let's take this and let's bounce it over to into Reaper, and then I'll just kind of show you how I would apply a groove to it. So let's first of all, right-click the record button and record the output of MIDI. And another thing also is, if you're going to record the output of MIDI, you have to make sure the MIDI is getting through all of your effects chain and then back to the track. So we need to open up battery, and where is it there? So battery doesn't pass through MIDI data by default. So we have to go to the MIDI output, right-click on this MIDI output, merges with MIDI bus. Now MIDI data can get out back to the track so we can record it. So when I do this, I'm going to just put this down lower, and you can see kind of where I'm moving the pattern. I'll choose between the patterns while we're putting the information into Reaper, into the track, and also you'll see which kits are being chosen, or which part of the kit's being played as I'm doing this. So we're just basically bouncing the information over. So all right, let's do this. That was weak, but anyway, you get the idea. So let's say we go in now. One thing I did when I was kind of performing that in is I accidentally hit MegaBaby to where to where this moved way up, and so basically it was so high it wasn't even playing part of the battery kits anymore. It was like at a note well beyond the range of battery. So I just fat fingered the keyboard. All right. So let's say we're in here and we want to change the feel of this since it was all quantized. I'd select all of the notes. And so, by the way, I can now disable MegaBaby because we've bounced everything over to this MIDI item. And this will follow through with playing battery. So see how it's playing right here, but now it will play some of the upper notes because I was, basically, performing it in. So it remembers everything that I was doing with the keyboard as it was playing, as it was recording in. But if we wanted to change the feel of this, then like I said, you could hit the H key and you could humanize it and you could change, kind of create a variable on the timing, the velocity, or use the groove tool, which is probably what I would use. And you have to have FWS extensions installed. Go to the groove tool, make sure you've selected all of your notes, and then choose a groove. There are a lot of grooves that are built into the groove tool. There are also some available. No Fish has some that you can add on after, and I like several of those too. But just to kind of show you, let me just kind of zoom in on some of these, and you can see. Let me apply this. You can see it moves the notes just to create a slightly different feel in the timing. It also affects the velocity too, and you can change how much it changes the velocity in the position right here. Whenever you choose a different groove, you need to undo before you apply the new groove. So I did Control-Z and did an undo, and then I'll just choose another groove. Now some of these really change the velocity a lot, and that's what gives it, that feel like it's a big change. So anyway, that's the basics of what I wanted to show. If you have any questions, just hit me up on the Reaper forum.